I can't believe I spent $30 on an Under Armour t-shirt. For $30, I better be under your mother. What's up, my G? This is Blackberry the Juice. Today, I want to reply to a letter someone wrote in Lewis's Discord about the DOB, which stands for New York City Department of Buildings. I want to enlighten some of you and give you an inside look as a New York City licensed contractor. I want to make it very clear that I don't hate anyone in particular at the DOB. I do, however, think the organization offers zero contribution to society and is a criminal organization who specialize in harassment, but that's just my opinion, of course. Here we go. Hey Lewis, I'm an employee from the Department of Building and saw your recent video of zoning regulations. While my department doesn't handle zoning, I'd like to clear up some confusions. Yes, the DOB does make construction in New York City difficult, but for good reason. There's enough unpermitted work that occurs in New York City that there was 1 death per month in the year of 2018 in the city. We need to be able to keep track of these sites to make sure their drawings are code compliant and that they are not cutting corners during the process of construction. I think safety is important, but safety is also the most common use tactic that the communist country employs to keep their citizens in line. Keep that in mind as you listen to what I have to say. The DOB doesn't do shit for safety. There's not a single thing that the Department of Building does to protect the construction workers or the property owners. They are a criminal organization that gives out fines and constantly harass and molest the contractors. Let me give you an example. The past 2 years, they just recently implemented the requirement of needing an OSHA certification to work on a construction site. But the problem is that they let anyone register as a training center, and to take the training, it costs $400 to $600. But because the training center are run by private companies, they are always competing with each other. But how can you compete if you're selling the same thing? Well, most of these training centers will sell you a guaranteed pass. Even if you don't know anything, they'll let you take the test as many times as it takes for you to pass. Technically, it's not cheating because you are taking the test and passing yourself, which completely defeats the purpose. I swear to you, I see people who doesn't speak a lick of English pass the OSHA certification. I, of course, have an OSHA certification myself. To be honest with you, I only know enough OSHA regulations to pass the test. And the place I took the test is completely legit. And of course, I'm talking about their legit ass tacos, because it's a taco joint as well. Check it out, it's at 90-07 Astoria Boulevard, Queens, New York, 11369. Here's something I want to make very, very clear. Just because a contractor did not apply for a permit doesn't mean they are doing work illegally. There are plenty of jobs that does not need permit. Every time I see a client, I always ask them, how much time you got and how much money do you want to burn? To redo an entire typical New York City kitchen, including tiles, cabinets, backsplash, the flooring, will cost about $8,000 and takes about 4 to 5 days tops. But if you want to move the gas pipe 15 inches to the right, it will cost you an extra $25,000. You will need a condo plan and an architectural drawing, which will cost $4,000 to $5,000. You will also need a construction permit, which will cost about $400, plus a plumbing permit with a master plumber, which will cost about $800. If you add it all up, that's only about $6,000. What's the extra $11,000 for? Well, it's gonna take about 2 months to complete, and the worker can't just sit around and play with their dicks all day and not get paid. That's also not taking into the consideration of the 2-month property tax and mortgage that the owner have to pay and will never get back. So again, just to move the gas pipe 15 inches to the right, it could easily add up costing well over $30,000. Even though there are a lot of people out there who are doing renovation without applying for the proper permits, I have not seen a single contractor that's not following the building codes. And it has nothing to do with the Department of Buildings. It's because a dead employee or a burned down house is not really good for business. When I first bought my Tesla, I needed to install a charger in my garage to charge the car. But because it's an old house, there aren't any existing floor plans. So the DOB required me to get an architectural drawing to show them what a garage looks like. So here, let me show you. Look, it looks like fucking like this. This is a garage and I want an outlet right here. Right fucking here. Between the architect, the permits, and the amount of time I wasted, I spent almost $6,000 to install one fucking outlet. One fucking outlet. But it's worth it to charge my Tesla. I love my Tesla. I don't get a chance to have sex in my Tesla, but I have sex with it all the time. Video on that coming soon, and it's not pleasant, so I would recommend unsubscribing now when you still have the chance. Let's continue the letter. A major issue of construction for the DOB is the lack of communication between us and those running the project. Projects are required to send us weekly reports depending on the scope of work. As you can imagine, like a kid not wanting to do a little homework, contractors, despite knowing the appropriate channels, will not pursue the necessary permits for construction sometimes, or send us appropriate progress report during construction. And to be honest, I don't blame them, contractors, completely, because sometimes they are not in on it for bad construction. A significant group of PEs and RAs in New York City simply make bad drawings. PEs are professional engineers and RAs are registered architects. I ordered them to know that some of those outrageous drawings gets pushed to the contractors and led to bad results. I agree with you that there are a lot of mistakes in architectural drawings, and it happens to me all the time. One time, I was upgrading the boiler in a basement for a house I was flipping. The boiler was installed perfectly with no problem, but the Department of Building Inspector has super high IQ, saw that the basement window was 9 inches off to the right as compared to the architectural drawing. He told me that to either move the window or change the drawing. He was even nice enough to give me a helpful tip and said, if I were you, I would change the drawing. I called up my architect and bitched at him about this. They dedicated their whole team, over 30 people, and spent 2 months fixing this problem for me. They even made a nice time lapse to show me, here, take a look. Yeah, it took less than 2 minutes, and it was fixed before the inspector left the site, and he still failed the inspection. The fucking problem was that they won't let me reschedule another appointment the next day. I have to wait at least another 2 weeks to schedule another appointment. I guess they don't want people to rush the work because of safety. 3 weeks later, another DOB inspector came to check everything out again. You can just tell this inspector was a righteous warrior fighting for health, safety, and justice. Out of the fucking basement window, he saw that there was a garage that was built way back in the 60s when the house was first built, and it doesn't meet the current building code. He was like, that's a safety hazard. You need to take that down in order for me to pass inspection. I had to wait another goddamn 2 weeks to schedule another appointment. And if you're counting, I'm paying 5 guys to just sit at home and jerk off because I wasn't able to do anything for a whole month while my wallet got corona in 2017. You know, it only takes Jesus 3 days to come back from the dead, right? But it takes 3 fucking weeks just to make an appointment with the DOB. Here's another thing about safety. There are houses in New York City that's about to collapse, but they still allow people to live in it with no problem. But if you have a perfectly good house and you want to apply for a permit to add a closet in your room, now all of a sudden it's going to cost you over $20,000 because the DOB needs to make sure your house is safe. You know why there's no accidents when you apply for a work permit? Because the DOB gives out so many violations that no one can work. So if no one can work, no one will get hurt. Fucking smart. Fuck you and your fucking safety. It was near impossible to get an outdoor seating permit for your restaurant in New York City because of safety. But all of a sudden, COVID happened and they just magically let people sit outside and was perfectly fine. There are a lot of rules in place to keep people in check. They don't always enforce it, but they can at any time. I constantly joke about how communist government will be better because at least they will tell you what you can do and what you cannot do. And if you break the rule, you just go missing. Going back, I'm glad that you used the homework and school analogy. I did some homework myself and I want to show you guys. As of 2017, there are 14,620 registered construction companies. I'm sure there are a lot more now, but there are only 2,032 construction companies that have active permits. I really am wondering what the other 12,000 construction companies are doing. In 2017, the Department of Building gave out 45,091 DOB violations and 56,878 ECB violations. but they only approved 30,890 permits. So if you do the math, that comes out to 3 violations per permit, or at 14,620 total construction companies, that's about 7 violations per company. Out of the 30,890 permits, only 3,836 of them was completed the same year, or about 12%. Another 9,281 permits took over a year to complete, or about 30%. And 5,585 permits took over 2 years to complete, or 18%. And over 10,939 permits that was applied in 2017 is still not completed till this day, which is over 3 years, and that's about 35%. That means if you were to apply for a permit with the DOB, there's an 88% chance that it will take you over a year to complete. And keep in mind, the average rent in New York City is $2,500 a month. You do the math. So maybe the reason why the kids aren't doing their homework is because the math homework is given out by their gym teacher, and their science teacher is also the janitor. I will tell you this, at this point in time as a New York City contractor, no one in their right mind will apply for a permit unless it's for exterior work, where the construction can be easily spotted. Even then, they will only apply for a permit for a fence. In my humble opinion, the only thing the Department of Building is good at is documenting how incompetent they are. In 2014, there was a building 4 blocks away from Lewis's old store. They applied for a permit to fix the gas pipe, but end up blowing up and leveling their 5-story building, and the 5-story building next to it, and another 5-story building next to that. I was thinking to myself, if only the Department of Building could have given them more violations, the building wouldn't have collapsed. I'm not trying to cherry pick the worst case scenario here. I'm just speaking from my experience, and I just happen to be working at that same block. I love New York City. This is where I grew up, and I take a lot of pride in that. I also got this chair off Craigslist for $175 just to film this video. It was a great deal because they even threw in the cum stain for free. So help me out and blew my button. Anyways, all these are just my opinions, of course. I love the DOB more than this man loves Yelp. I'll just leave it at that. Peace.
What unit calling Manhattan? Unit to Manhattan, you're cutting yourself out.